Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of Energy Society in the Middle East. It is the end of week 4. This is my last video. We're at the absolute end of the course. I wanted to speak this video about the readings by El-Badawi, right? Alternative Energy in the Middle East, and Jamali and Sidani's CSR in the Middle East, Corporate Social Responsibility in the Middle East, and a little bit about the video. So I'll get right to it. Again, I've enjoyed reading your discussion forum contributions, Marco, Marlena, and Beatrice, especially a lot of detail you guys are giving me. Thank you. A couple of you also have mentioned or answered the question, why is it that Bahagat really does segregate or distinguish between nuclear energy and the other sort of renewable, unending sort of sources of energy? And it has to do with employment and waste and construction. It's a very laborious, expensive, dangerous business, right? The others, nowhere near as much. So it's in a class of its own in the MENA regions, right? And another thing, of course, where are the countries in the Middle East and North Africa that have nuclear energy, right? Of course, there's the big example of Iran, which for political reasons, religious reasons, ideological reasons, is always in the news. You also have, of course, Israel, and more recently even Saudi Arabia in the news when it comes to these types of energy. So that's just sort of briefly what's going on as far as energy. It's important for us to realize that the Middle East and North Africa, because it is a region that is primarily arid, right? It's lots of desert with, communities that have access to rivers, some that have more rainfall and arable land, etc., like that. But it's by and large a pretty dry and hot place. So what kinds of energy can you get in such a hot and dry place? Of course, what pops to your mind right away? Solar, right? And I would say you should think immediately after that wind. So you'll find a lot of solar and wind in the Middle East, right? And that's exactly what Becca talks about. Now let me just mention over here, what are the 5 other renewables? Right? They are hydropower, geothermal, biofuels, wind, and solar. So hydropower, you can think about, of course, dams and things of that nature. Geothermal is using the sort of heat and hot water from beneath the ground, and biofuels, of course, looking at, it's basically burning food to make fuel, right? And things of that nature. So this stuff goes on in the Middle East in different sort of proportions. And the one thing I wanted you to think about was, again, I keep seeing Iran's name being mentioned in this book more than any other, right? And especially in the chapter that we read. Why is that? People will be surprised, perhaps, that Iran has historically, a very diversified energy portfolio. They have the oil and gas. They also have nuclear. They also have solar and wind. This is sort of a parallel discussion when we talk about water purification, right? So this book, Water on Sand, talks about the ecological effect of energy and sort of development, urban development in the MENA region. I didn't require that for you, but it's one example. But Iran has all these things going on. They're short on water, they have a lot of sunlight and heat, etc. So it's a very interesting example for not only, their ecology is pretty diverse. Their energy sector has historically been quite diverse. As a people, they're quite diverse. So the student of Energy Society in the Middle East needs to know Iran, needs to study that country and learn about its business and its society and its culture. So please keep that in mind as you sort of progress in your education, and of course when you listen to the nonsense we call media, to always think skeptically. A little bit about the second book. So what is corporate social responsibility? This subject is somewhat controversial to people who do oil and gas or energy in general, or just those people who are in business who want to sort of give back. Some people consider it to be a little bit like fluff. Well, okay, this is what rich companies do to get away with, building or, sort of polluting a river. They just give, a couple of $1 million to a local community. That is not what we're talking about here. And one thing that the authors here do sort of clarify In order for you as a large American corporation or as a large Jordanian or Egyptian or a Saudi company corporation, if you want to give back to the community, right? And people do that. People invest in local communities all the time. To do that in MENA, you have to do it with respect to and in consideration of local culture and religious norms. Now, you have to do this all around the world, actually. And there are many, many stories. We don't have time for it now. Again, there's stories about how to sort of do business and philanthropy in China, for example, or in Japan or other cultures. You really have to know the culture, preferably the language, right, in order to sort of reciprocate. So some things that are important in this regard is for us to have a knowledge of cultural and religious norms of charity. He mentions things, of course, like sadaqah, zakat, waqf. These are terms that you're not accountable for now. I don't want to overload you. I can put up a list of Islamic terms if you'd like. But within Islamic culture and civilization, there is a very, very long sort of tradition of giving back, investing, philanthropy, etc. So, again, yourself as the future generation of professionals, you're going to need to be mindful of these Islamic cultural norms if you're going to be in these societies where you invest back into the society. They give examples. I'm just going to suffice with that as a discussion for that book. If you have any further questions, you can email me, of course. Quickly about the videos. So I enjoyed reading your comments as well, as far as sort of China really dominating much of the world in terms of building, solar plants and solar cells, around the world, and the development that they're sort of investing in the Middle East and Africa, etc. So there's also the Belt and Road Initiative. This is really important, and maybe next year it'll be required reading. You need to know a little something about what's going on. What is China doing in association with Russia and Central Asian countries and Iran and Syria, right? There's another sort of economic platform on the other part of the world that is extending this way, and that is providing some competition, shall we say, to America and the European Union. Economically, I'm saying. So what are they doing? Where are they investing? Where are they investing their dollars, right? What are they looking to produce? And that's actually quite exciting. If you look at their sustainability goals, if you look at the sort of, the infrastructure and the rail and the transportation, long distance transportation that they're doing, like the long sort of train line that they're building. Other things, of course, that you guys learned about or watched were looking at the solar revolution that is in different parts of the Middle East, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, right? These countries are investing heavily in solar. Historically, also, within the past maybe 5 years or so, the largest sort of solar farm, right, a place where they make solar energy, has been in Morocco. It's employed lots of local workers, and it's pretty safe, right? So there are lots of important stories and constructive, productive initiatives that have to do with energy and society and with business throughout the MENA region. And you've just seen really sort of a smattering, a large sort of sample of what's out there. Again, water purification is another one, but that's a subject for another day. So yes, thank you. I hope that you've enjoyed all the content for this course, and I look forward to being in touch soon.